Hey, this is Mr. Beckstrom, and this is Statistical Methods. And I want to take a look at a problem that I came up here with, and I want you to kind of take a look at this. This is going over some topics that we covered in section 1.1. So this is about a survey, and I want you to take a look at it and see if you kind of agree with the survey, if you think this is a good sampling method, or if you think that there are some issues with it, and we'll go over and talk about those issues. So it says, suppose Fine Cooking Magazine, which is an actual magazine, runs a survey asking its readers the following question. Don't you hate it when restaurants don't ask if you want to split the bill? It asked its readers to call in with their responses. 10 readers responded, and 85% agreed that they didn't like it when restaurants didn't ask this. Do you think this sample is representative of the overall population of restaurant goers? If not, list some major flaws of the survey. So at this point right now, if you can, go ahead and pause the video. I want you to think about it, and I want you to list as many flaws as you can, or if you agree with it, just say that you agree with it, and then when you're ready, go ahead and restart the video, and we'll kind of try to break this down and see what kinds of things from section 1.1 that we can pull into this question here. All right. Okay, so looking at this, I would say that this is probably not very representative of the overall population of restaurant goers. I would say most of us, if we want the check split, we would probably let them know at some point. So let's talk about why this is so high and what kind of issues we have with it. First of all, it says, don't you hate it when the restaurants don't ask if you want to split the bill? So already, this is a question that's already biased. It's already trying to get you to agree with its point of view, with its agenda, right? Whoever wrote this question probably already doesn't like it when restaurants don't ask you if you want to split the bill, and it's pretty obvious in the way that they worded it. And this happens a lot in surveys, and we really have to be careful with that. A lot of times they're going to ask questions in such a way that they're trying to elicit a certain response. So we have to be really careful that when we read these questions that we don't give into that. We don't let the way that they ask those questions influence our answers. So what's a better way we could have asked this? Maybe, do you prefer restaurants ask whether or not you want the bill to be split before they bring it to your table? That would be a much more neutral way to ask that question. But as it stands, that's a pretty kind of biased agenda written way that they worded this question. Let's take another look at another flaw of this. Looks like they only had 10 readers responded. This is a pretty big magazine. That's a pretty small response rate. And when you have a very small sample size, it's definitely hard to kind of extrapolate that small response to a large population. So we generally want much larger samples in order to make predictions about larger populations. And in fact, when we do certain surveys later in this book, when we do certain types of estimations about populations and things like that, we'll have minimums. A lot of times it's at least 30. So 10 is pretty small. All right, and then keep going. And then notice the math here. They said only 10 readers responded, but 85% agreed that they didn't like it. Well, if only 10 readers responded, that means that the percentages should be divisible by 10. Basically, it should either be 10% if it's one reader, 20% if it's two readers, 30% if it's three readers. So 85% does not make sense, because if it was 8 readers that responded, that they agreed, then it would be 80%, and if it was 9 readers, it would be 90%. So 85% means that 8.5 readers responded. So somewhere that math is wrong. So maybe somebody recorded something wrong. Maybe somebody made those numbers up. But sometimes we have to check to make sure that those numbers make sense. And in this case, we can see that those two numbers there, they just don't make sense. Another thing is, and this is something that we learned in section 1.1, and definitely something that you should know for the rest of the semester because this comes up a lot, is the idea of a voluntary response sample. And that's where the reader or the consumer has the choice of whether or not they're going to respond. And in those types of sampling methods, usually only people with strong feelings are actually going to take the time and the effort to respond. So in this case, there was probably thousands of people that saw this survey. And the fact that only 10 responded, meaning that there was probably only like 10 people that really had strong feelings about, whether or not restaurants asked whether or not you wanted to split the bill. So, depending on how obscure the subject is, sometimes we're just not going to have many responses at all. So, and we're not going to get all of those people that have kind of a neutral type response to this question. And a lot of times we want those people to respond to these types of surveys. So these voluntary response samples are not good as far as trying to estimate the whole population of people or objects or whatever we're trying to find out about. All right, and I think that's about it, but there's a lot of problems with this, and I hope that you found some of those. If you didn't, try to read back through some of these. Go back over example 2 with the voluntary response sample. Go back over some more of these, and let me know if you have any questions. And talk to you soon. Thanks.